4 minutes until showtime. 3 minutes until showtime. 2 minutes until showtime. 1 minute until showtime. 'Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
Insurrection, obstruction, indictments, civilly liable for sexual abuse. The one man responsible for all that could be sitting in a prison cell on election day and still be elected commander-in-chief for these United States. That man is beholden to Putin, weakened NATO the last time around, and is currently tying himself to wealthy Saudi oil money. He enriched himself when government stayed at his properties. He campaigned on wanting to use government to go after his political rivals and wants to expand executive power. If Donald Trump is re-elected, our nation is lost. So let's roll up our sleeves, get to work, and tell the MAGA folks no more before it's too late. campaign, normally we would I'll tell you all the ways you can support the show first, but we're not doing that first. Just remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. But the first thing that we are going to be doing is we are coming at you first with our special guest, friend of the show and candidate in the Louisiana's State Senate 12th District, Britt Gondolfi. And welcome, Britt. Thank you for coming to the show. Remember to unmute your mic.
Hi.
Hey, thank you for coming back onto the show. Appreciate you.
I'm so thankful to be here. I had the best time ever last time.
That is awesome, and we love to have you. And win or lose, you are always welcome to come back on the show to talk about whatever you want to talk about. And so, how's the campaign been? What have you been up to? Did I lose you? Are you? I think we might have had a bit of a issue. Did we lose you? Oh no. Did we already have a technical snafu? Okay, there we go. Okay.
I got to get my daughter off of her iPad. The internet here is limited. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes, perfect. All right, so let's start over. Welcome back to the show. Britt Gondolfi, candidate for Louisiana State Senate 12 on the North Shore of Louisiana. So how's the campaign been going for you?
I can't complain, but I will. It's really hard. Running for office is very, very difficult. I definitely, as a first-time candidate, underestimated the misery and suffering that is running for office. A lot of it has to do with just the costliness of the whole process and the way that we organize like political fundraising. But I think I have a chance. Like a lot of people, the positives are that a lot of people have been very positive to the message that the state shouldn't put doctors in jail for providing abortion care services. So a lot of people told me at the beginning that this was going to be a dead in the water strategy for me to just be very open and talking about women's healthcare and reproductive choice and abortion. But I think it's actually helped.
Right, and as we've talked before, and as I said, there's two ways to run in that district because it's on the North Shore. The North Shore is very conservative. The common wisdom is that what you should do is you should run to the right, run to the center. Be more centrist, be more highlight conservative values to get those people to come to you. But the other way of thinking was what you're doing, and maybe it's winning is getting people who may not feel like they have a vote and support on the North Shore to come out and vote by saying, hey, I'm there for you. Come out, register, vote, and then also maybe get those people who are like, wow, this law went too far. This law, and this person who is currently representing us supported this law, and this law went way too far. And it did. And you're beating it out there, and what you're saying is you're getting a lot of good feedback from what you're saying, and that's great. It's great to hear that people are rejecting what the law is. And even if at the end of the day the result is you get people start pushing back on the draconianness of the law, that is also a good thing.
Yeah, I just had a lot of women tell me their own personal story. I knew that women were going to say, hey, thank you for speaking openly about your personal experience. Here's my personal story. Because nobody's pro-choice until they gotta be. Because It's like, why would you be? You don't know that you're pro-choice until you're in a situation where you're like, oh, dang, I really need that choice. People don't fantasize about having tragedy or car accidents or bad things happening. And being pregnant and not being able to be pregnant is kind of like a car accident. You don't foresee it happening to you, but it does happen to people, So hearing people's personal stories and testimonies, and having women tell me that they were thankful that there was someone in the politic that was just going to be open, because it kind of opens the door for other women to be honest about their experiences.
Right, and you're out there, and I mean, you're out there. You're going to be taking the good. You're probably taking some barbs too. I'm sure people are out there, slinging negatives as well. I'm sure, but I'm sure you're used to that, especially because you used to work in a clinic, right? So I'm sure you dealt with that a lot there too.
If I had $100 for every time someone called me a baby killer, our campaign would be fully funded. We'd be off to the races. We should ask for sponsorship.
Right.
Every for every hateful comment. And that's been interesting to witness, like the hyperbole, the very exaggerated language that people who are fighting to criminalize abortion use. They're equating murdering a child with someone taking a pill weeks after conception. It's not the same.
No.
I don't care what you say. This is not equivalent.
Not at all.
And so it's been interesting. And I, at first, was really struggling with the comment section. Just, I'm one of those people that I wake up, I check my phone. I wish I didn't, but I do. And so waking up, checking my phone, seeing someone be like, "You're a murderer," every day. At the beginning was tough. And then I just started clapping back and saying, this kind of language is dangerous. Like, you are actually, in the way that you're speaking and misconstruing the reality of abortion, you result in people getting hurt. I worked at a clinic where we had to have security guards. I worked at the clinic at the time where that Dr. Tiller, was murdered in his church. People are violent, and accusing people of murder when you're advocating for privacy and medical choices being made between women and their doctors, it's intellectually cheap.
Right.
And it's a really low blow, and it's not accurate, and it's an over exaggeration, and it's dangerous. And so now I'm having fun in the comment section. I'm like, I don't care anymore.
Right. I got to a point. It's tough. I remember when I was in my early days of debating, choice and autonomy, I was, maybe because being raised up north, maybe I was more likely to be, raised as someone with, believing in choice regardless. But, as earlier you get, it's tough to debate the persons, but as you start getting in your wheelhouse and getting your ducks in a row, I guess, and learning how to debate it becomes a lot easier, especially when you start hearing the same things over and over and over again, and they're less creative, and then it's like, okay, well, now I know how to hit this one out of the park, hit that one out of the park, and actually start getting impressed when they come up with something new.
Yeah, well, that's why my opponent didn't show up to the WDSU hot seat debate.
Right.
For 2 weeks, Travers Mackle from Channel 6 News, that does the hot seat debates. We saw Mandy's, the one for the North Shore Sheriff race, got viral. It was a big deal. This is our local news source for politics. And the seated incumbent, who's the second most powerful senator in the Senate, for 2 weeks couldn't respond to schedule a 20 to 30 minute television segment, which is free press for someone that's running. So, she did that for 1 or 2 reasons. 1, she doesn't feel like she needs to, or 2, she thinks it would hurt her if she did. And I think it can be both. And, so for me, it was like, I was really looking forward to people seeing the contrast between someone who says, if you don't like abortion, we should be providing higher wages, affordable housing, early child care, preschools, better public schools, make life good for people who do have kids, but you can't jail doctors. I really wanted to see her justify jailing doctors.
Right.
I really wanted to ask her if she thought that jailing women for having an abortion is constitutional. I don't know. She's a Republican. She cares about the Constitution, that was written, for a different time in a different place. But all that to say, she didn't show up. And the fact that, we see Jeff Landry, who wants to subpoena women's medical records, who wants to figure out if you said that your period was late in your period tracking app. He's not showing up. So it's so interesting that this political haze of we don't defend it anywhere.
Right.
Defend it. I'd Jello wrestle you to figure out who's right in this and who's wrong. Let people decide. Not really. I'm not going to Jello wrestle Beth myself, but you need.
Right.
You give it.
And just let the callers know, because of the technology, she won't be able to hear you, so I can't take calls on this. So I'm sorry, but we'll get to your calls afterwards. Yeah, I can't take the calls at the moment. I mean, I could probably ask questions from the YouTube chat if people wanted me to, but I can't take calls.
Can we do the chat? I'm so sorry, guys.
Yeah, if you have a question you want me to ask in the chat, I could definitely do that. But I can't take a call. So ask questions in the chat, and if they're reasonable, I'll ask them.
If they're unreasonable, we'll shame you.
Yes. Oh Lord. Well, here one of my favorite conservatives wants to know, if you are sworn in into office, if you win your election, what book will you swear in on?
Oh wow, that's a beautiful question. I'm gonna really have to pray about it.
Okay.
I'll have to pray.
She's going to pray on it, so there you go.
Yeah, to pray on it. One of my favorite religious texts is the Buddhist text, the Dharmapada. Do love the Bible, but there's just some things in there that don't totally jive. It's a big book. The Bible's a big book. When you swear by the Bible, you swear by a lot. And I eat oysters. I break all the old dietary restrictions in the Old Testament. So I just don't.
Right.
I don't be a hypocrite or anything.
Well, see, if I was an observant Jew, which I'm Jewish, but I'm not really observant. I love bacon too much. If I was an observant Jewish person and I won election, I would not be able to swear on the Bible, because it would be against my religion to swear on the Bible, which is why when you take the oath of office, you can either swear or affirm that you're going to uphold the Constitution. So you don't have to actually swear on any book. You can affirm.
Could I get a book that's just the red text, just New Testament, just 4 Gospels, just want the words in red, when everything else taken out?
There you go.
Is that good enough?
That works.
For our listener, that's what I want to do. I want to strip the Bible down to just the words in red, and leave the rest blank, and then I'll swear on that.
All right. I think that's the only serious question so far in the chat.
Oh wow!
There's a Hal Sparks related question. I don't know if you know Hal Sparks, the comedian, but so let's see. Oh, we do have another. Let's see. Let me see. If you are opposed to the ending of an innocent human life in the womb, then you must also support socialist policies to prevent abortion.
I'm the less than legal candidate. I mean, I'm going to have to discredit that first portion. All differ on when, quote, life begins, and a majority of abortion care services happen by pill 3 to 4 weeks post-conception.
Right.
And so women who have a medical abortion, what comes out of their uterus, they see. And if women were horrified by what they saw when they have medical abortions, they would have, we would have heard. Well, I mean, maybe there are women that be disturbed, just for their own moral leanings, but I don't know. You see, this whole thing, they just want to immediately dive into this idea of, this is like me killing my 7-year-old.
Right.
It's not. It's just completely not.
Well, I think the hypocritical thing, though, is like that we have lots of socialist things that they support, like having a police department is socialist, having a fire department is socialist, having a military is socialist. It's taking money from, people who can afford it to support everybody. I mean, those things are all socialist things as well, but they don't complain about that. They want us to support those things, but they're not going to look at it that way.
Well, let me tell you, and I say this all the time, look at countries that have the lowest rates of abortion. You know what they have that we don't? Universal
medicine. Yep.
Socialized medicine, early child care. They send you home with a nurse. They have people come to your house, visit on you, check on you. If you are a single mother, you're going to get a significant stipend from the government to survive. Like, they help people.
Right.
It's not because they say, I'm going to throw you in jail, doctor, for helping this woman who has to have an abortion because she's broke.
Right.
And she's pregnant, It's just such a big decision for the government to make for every single human being. I'm so mad this election season because I really felt like this election, people were going to be like, oh my God, the house is on fire. The state of Louisiana is mandating that every single pregnant woman be forced to give birth no matter what, even when she says she cannot. I thought people were going to be losing their shit. But to be quite honest, like, it has been hard to pull this story like up
Right.
to the surface of this political season. And the voter turnout is astronomically low. You know, the media coverage is, it's a big deal.
Well, I think it's unfortunate that Louisiana puts its elections the year before other elections, the main congressional elections, because it keeps the election turnout lower, which only helps conservatives. But on the abortion thing, I mean, you're right about, I've always said liberal policies reduce abortions, conservative policies increase them. When Jeb Bush was governor of Florida, he reduced funding to Planned Parenthood, and for the rest of his tenure, the abortion rate went up. When John Hickenlooper was governor of Colorado, they made universal access to contraception, both by pill and IUD, regardless of if you had insurance, because under the Affordable Care Act, if you had insurance, you could get those things at 100% first dollar, but not everybody had. There was still a gap of people who didn't have insurance, so even those people would have access to pills and IUDs available at no cost. And during the tenure of his term, for the rest of that term, unwanted pregnancies went down, which meant abortions went down. So liberal policies reduce abortions, conservative policies increase abortions and just punish the people who get them. So if conservatives are only about punishing people for their choices, not about actually having an actual effect. When I had another radio show way back in the day, I had the head of Planned Parenthood, I think it was, and it was and we all were in agreement that if we could reduce the number of abortions in the place, that would be a great thing, because nobody goes and wants to have one. It's just, but if you have to have one, it should be safe and it should be legal.
Yeah, no one wants to read a positive pregnancy test and say shit.
Exactly.
No young girl is like, when I grow up, I'm going to read my first pregnancy test and cry and throw up. Right. Like, that's not the reaction that someone wants to have. And there's a million reasons why someone would have that reaction. And it's either socioeconomic, medical, related to their relationship, or the circumstances of the conception are tragic.
Right.
Tragedy, shitty relationship, horrible medical circumstances, or socioeconomic. The only thing the state could provide any real substantial assistance with is that socioeconomic reason that a woman finds herself in need of an abortion. And nobody should have any other thing to say about the other three. Because if you are in a horrible relationship and you can't co-parent with someone, or if you have a horrific medical condition, or the child has a horrific medical condition, and we don't have universal health care. I watched women in the abortion clinic choose to have what conservatives would call a late-term abortion, because they found out their pregnancy had a medical condition that they were not going to be able to afford. They were not going to be able to afford to give this child a life of dignity. And a lot of those women got pregnant on purpose, and they're having this abortion in part because they cannot economically survive what it will cost to provide care for the condition that child has. So is she the criminal, or is the state that exploits and bankrupts people for having medical conditions that are beyond their control the criminal?
Right.
Because right now we're going to criminalize doctors who would help that woman, as opposed to figuring out how to provide a system of healthcare where women aren't making that economic calculation.
Right.
And so they're just out of their goddamn minds. They've just been using this. It's easy. It sounds good. I'm pro-life. It's just an easy thing to hide behind.
And you can't be pro-life if you support the way that the Louisiana law is worded, because, and I may not have the exact wording down exactly, but the way it's worded is that in Louisiana, which models itself off of the Texas law, is you have to be in imminent danger of having a severe medical issue taking place before you're allowed to terminate the pregnancy. So if you're in imminent danger of having what would be deemed to be a minor, like permanent,
to bleed out.
like
They gotta wait.
if it's going to be if it's going to be a permanent medical issue that's minor, whatever that means, you can't abort. If you're going to have a major medical issue that's not permanent, you can't have it. If you're going to have, but if you're going to have a, if you're going to have and if you know that you're going to have a major medical issue that's going to be permanent, if you let it continue but it's not imminent, you still can't have it. So you're basically forcing the patient to wait until it becomes an emergency and then deal with it then, and then risk it, which is why in Texas you had the case where the woman is suing the state because she actually went into toxic shock because of sepsis, because the way that the law is written is so poorly written that the lawyers in the hospital are like, well, we can't advise our doctors to do this procedure until she's in sepsis, because and the state's like, well, of course they could have done it. Well, no, of course not, because it's not clearly enough, and because this shouldn't be a legal issue. This should be an issue between the patient and their doctor as to what care is good enough for them.
15 years maximum sentencing is a hell of a fucking threat to make against a medical professional that will impede them from doing something they fear will cost them the rest of their lives. Because how long does it take to become a doctor? Or the average age of the doctor has got to be between 30 and 50 years old. So when you say that if you provide abortion care services to someone, you're going away for 15 years potentially, that's the rest of their life.
And the biggest
putting doctors away for the rest of their adult life because they find a woman and she says, I desperately need to have an abortion, and if they provide that for her, they're going to go to jail.
Right.
Who's going to want to practice medicine here? Who's going to want to be a gynecologist here?
Right.
A lot of Republican women that I've met that have told me that they resonated with what I was saying were medical professionals. There were women who have been nurses and who've worked in hospitals and who realize the myriad of complexities that happen that require someone to have an abortion, and then for the state or for our legislators to naively respond, well, they just should put these babies up for adoption. You should just put the baby up for adoption.
Well, how can they put up the baby up for adoption if they're forced to die to have the baby? It's going to be the state. Right. It's going to be the state exactly. or the widow, the widowed husband.
Naive.
Yeah,
it's cruel and it's naive to say that every circumstance in which a woman needs an abortion is just simply solved by the fact she could just be pregnant, give birth, and give the baby away. If giving the baby away wasn't a hard enough choice for many women to make, they don't even consider that pregnancy is 9 months.
Right.
Birth is a life-altering, biologically altering, like I'm not the same since I had a child. The
right.
state is making women give birth and just give it away. Like, what does that mean? That means that they're farming children from poor women.
Right.
That's exactly what it means. And from what I saw at the clinic, and what pisses me off the most about the adoption argument is 30% of the women that have abortions already have kids. So you're telling Sue Joellen, who's pregnant and can't afford another because she's already got 3, to go home and tell her 3 kids, well, mommy's just going to get pregnant, get big, y'all fall in love with this baby, and then when I give birth, I'm sorry guys, we can't afford it. I have to give your brother or your sister away to someone. It's easier for that woman to go take an abortion pill as soon as she finds out that she's pregnant, instead of telling her children that she's going to give away their sibling.
Right.
How does the adoption option really play out? And for those people that are able and capable of putting a child up for adoption, props to you. That's huge. Wow, what a sacrifice. But for the state to force everyone to make that sacrifice, it's no longer a gift. It's slavery. They're enslaving people because the private adoption industry has suffered since Roe v. Wade was overturned. The number of people that put children up into the private adoption system has dramatically dropped since women were able to say, I cannot do this. I do not want to do this. I will take this pill, have a miscarriage, and not be pregnant anymore. You know, people don't talk about the economic incentive to criminalize abortion, but I believe that there is one.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sinister and dark and horrible. But we can't expect women who are in poverty, who can't give birth, to be forced to give birth so that other people can become parents. It's
right.
Feels pretty feudal to me, you know. It's given big chattel vibes, like.
Yeah, I mean, big under his eye, Handmaid's Tale type deals. Like,
I haven't even seen it. Don't tell my supporters this, but I haven't read it. I haven't seen it. Having worked at a clinic and being told what it's about, I was like, I can't handle that right now.
Oh,
and
my wife was just, we started watching it and my wife was like, I can't handle it. I can't watch this. This is too real. And there's a lot of things where it's just like, yeah, that I could see that happening. Just a couple steps away, you know, we're a couple steps away from that. And there are a couple things where it's like, oh, that just happened. Yeah. Ew.
They're already trying to build like homes for pregnant women to go.
Right.
You know, these crisis pregnancy centers that got this massive tax credit allocation. You know, they're going to have these little centers for women to like come and live and get religiously indoctrinated, you know.
Well, those places piss me off. I mean, there was like a story way back in the day, like I read in like the Gambit, which is for the listeners who don't live here, one of our local papers, and like this one place just strung this woman along for such a long time, like, oh yeah, oh, we'll help you get the abortion, oh, we'll help you get the abortion, oh yeah, and by the time they helped her get, by the time it came time to help her get the abortion, it was too late. She couldn't get the abortion, and guess what?
What did they do?
She was forced to then have the kid because they misled and manipulated her. Another thing that the conservatives lie about, and I finally remembered what it had left my brain and finally remembered it, is that they lie about, like, in stuff about like what the whole heartbeat lie is, like, you know, they'll say, oh, 6 to 8 weeks is a heartbeat. No, the human heartbeat in the fetus isn't fully formed until like 20 weeks, and the abortions that take place after 20 weeks is like 0.5% of all abortions. 99.5% of all abortions take place before 20 weeks. When, you know, the only abortions that take place after that are not people who are like, oh, I want to go have an abortion, and, you know, I don't want to be a parent. It's people who are in those drastic situations, not even economic drastic situations, but those other ones where the fetus is not going to survive outside the womb, where the parent is, where the patient's not going to survive the pregnancy, you know, those types of situations, that where these laws completely fall apart. Like, my position, I take the extreme position of no restrictions. It should only be between the patient and the doctor. But even if you're going to put restrictions on it, it should never be restricted in life and health situations. Never. As long as if the doctor says this is going to kill, trust the doctor. This is going to kill the patient, trust the doctor. Don't just have the doctors just sign off on it. Done. And that's the end of it. And don't force, don't make any sort of other, you know, tests about it. This is going to kill the patient. Done. End of thing. This pregnancy won't last. Done. Sign off of it. Don't try and legalese it. But they did.
It's too complicated to qualify.
Right.
It's way too complicated to qualify. People or Travers Mack on the WDSU thing was like, I want to ask you about the exception thing. And I'm like, let's go beyond exceptions. Let's just go right back to that. This is a right that is enshrined with our right to privacy, our right to bodily autonomy, our right to self-determine. Because if we say we need to start fighting for exceptions, what are we going to do? We're going to make women go to court and prove they've been raped. We're going to make women go before a judge. We're going to put it on the public record. Every single woman that experiences a tragedy, you know, what are we going to have? Abortion courts?
Right.
You know, today on abortion court, Mary Jane must prove why she deserves to have this abortion. Live tonight. You know, like, what's the standard of evidence that's necessary for a woman to prove that she's been raped? So it's too complicated for us to put these kinds of restrictions. And let's talk about the prior restrictions with Roe v. Wade. It was to viability.
Right.
It was 24 weeks and 5 days for an elective abortion, 25 weeks and 6 days for what they called a therapeutic abortion, which is abortion to save the life of the mother, a fetal anomaly, or a tragic circumstance. There were no third trimester abortions anywhere. Right. That's not what was permitted in the case. The case outlined when it was when the viability line is. The issue is that our medical world has been able to move that viability line further back.
Right.
You could have a 20-week-old, 17-week-old, 15-week-old preemie that can survive with all the technology that we have now. So it makes things more complicated for that original standard of, okay, before this. I can't say that I'm not for some moment, of deciding. And the reason why you said that 99% of abortions happen before 20 weeks is because genetic testing that gives signals to doctors that lets them know that there is going to be a severe medical situation with the pregnancy, they happen around 16 weeks. So all of the abortions that do happen in those later weeks, it's a medical necessity.
Right.
It's a medical necessity. Elective abortion, what people stereotype as the chick having the abortion is, oh no, I got pregnant. I want to live my life. Like people have this stereotype of the careless girl that just gets knocked up because she wasn't safe and just doesn't want to take up the responsibility. That's the stereotype. But the reality is that there's millions of stories and millions of reasons, and it's too complicated for us to try to set certain parameters as to what we think is right or wrong. Because most people, when they find out they're pregnant and they make that calculation, relationship, money, career, life path, my housing, my circumstances, my children, they factor everything out and they say no, they act immediately. And the second reason why women have late-term abortions, besides the medical circumstances, is money. Women end up having abortions later in their pregnancy because Medicaid doesn't cover abortion. Most insurance companies don't cover abortion. And so women are waiting and saving money because there's no resources to cover the cost of that procedure. So for people who could say that an earlier term abortion is more understandable, why are they not for advocating for that woman to have the financial resources? Because if you can't afford a $750 procedure, how are you going to afford a child?
Right.
I don't know. Thanks for letting me run on that for a while.
You're the candidate and that's your issue. But and you did say something about, it being a right. And I'm sure there are people, I don't know if I've missed this in the chat or not. But part of the horribly written ruling with Dobbs v. Jackson, where they overturned it repeatedly, Alito was like, there's no right to abortion written in the Constitution. And I'll remind everybody on the video that the 9th Amendment says the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people, i.e., our Supreme Court justice who wrote an opinion in the Constitution about the Constitution doesn't understand their own Constitution, because that clearly says that you don't have to enumerate a right for it to be a right protected by the Constitution.
Yeah.
So we have lots of non-enumerated rights, and there you go.
I think it's enumerated. I'm one of these, I'm not a lawyer, but I have a political theory that I think the 4th Amendment enumerates the right to abortion. So hear me out.
It might enumerate it in non-explicit ways. It might be enumerated in like right to privacy type ways, but it's still not explicitly enumerated. You have a right to an abortion, but it doesn't have to be, because if you want to go back to what the founders believed in the enumeration of rights, they didn't think that you should have to enumerate any rights, and that was a whole debate. So, but it goes back to, the founders being, people wanting to love to cite the founders until it becomes inconvenient to cite the founders. So, and then of course they are old white slaveholding men. So, or mostly slaveholding men, and
moral epitomes.
Yes.
Our moral icons. I think you're talking
who
about our
considered,
moral icons,
you know,
sir.
3/5 of a person.
Yeah.
Who
I
couldn't
look up,
vote.
I mean, yeah, those are who we're trying to grow up to be like. I'm being sarcastic just in case
I know.
anyone tries to do that.
And then, of course, you know, they argue that we should be it's the same people that argue that we should look at laws and be textualists will also argue that we should look at the documents that the Federalist Papers. So you can't do both. But anyway,
Yeah, well, I'm surprised that I'm disappointed in the media and I'm disappointed in the Democratic Party for not being like, there's a problem in Louisiana. Like, if you're trying to turn out a youth vote, if you're trying to turn out a progressive vote, if you're trying to turn out a Democratic vote, if you're trying to turn out a vote for poor people, tell people that the state of Louisiana is forcing people into parenthood when they're saying they can't. Just make people like rip your shirt, run out in the streets, and figure out where your nearest polling place is. But the Democratic Party, for the most part, has been like, well, I don't know if you could talk about that much. That's gonna hurt you, you know. And the media is like not screaming that this election is a litmus test for how people feel. And by not letting people know this is an opportunity to clap back against our abortion laws, it's not an issue. People are not really talking about it.
I don't necessarily think Katie Bernhardt is trying to turn out the progressive vote either. So
We'll talk about this after the election. Katie, thank you for helping me text my constituents.
That's my personal opinion. It's not the opinion of the candidate or the candidates committee, but that's my
no views expressed in this podcast
are the views of the podcast host and not the views of the candidate. But yes.
Oh my God.
But you know, you have gotten support of the party and the governor, the committees, and the committees supported you, and the governor supported you, right?
Oh, the governor let me have lunch with him for an hour and a half and asked me if I was ready for the robocalls.
Okay.
I haven't received an endorsement, and no offense to him, I would be shocked if he did. You know, I mean, he's built a lot of his politic around being pro-life, which I tried to convince him on and say, look, I get that you want less women to have abortion, but don't you think our law goes a little far with putting doctors in jail? Like, don't you want to kind of do this through social programs? Like, do we have to use the criminal justice system in Louisiana? Right. You know, the most corrupt criminal justice system in the country, the last vestige of chattel slavery exists.
We imprison the most people per capita in the world. Let's put more people in there.
Yeah, let's make them gynecologists. I want more gynecologists at Angola. Said no one ever. Said no one ever. And so, I don't know. It's like, where are the days where someone could be like, well, I'm pro-life, but I ain't gonna tell Deborah what to do with her body. Right. I wouldn't, but I'm not gonna put this doctor in jail for the rest of his life. Like, what happened to that? Where it's like, you could be pro-life, but it was just a choice that you were saying, like, if I got knocked up and circumstances weren't right, I'm going through with it. Like, where did we go from being pro-life, meaning I morally can't have an abortion, it's just against my religion. Right. I couldn't do it. Why did we have to cross over to, and now you have to have my faith as well?
Well, the Republican Party decided they needed the evangelical vote, and that's when they started doing that. Because I think the evangelicals en masse, I think, supported Jimmy Carter. I think they were all happy to have Jimmy Carter as president. I think they supported him a bunch, and then the Republican Party was like, we need evangelicals, so let's get them all riled up about abortion. And then they were like, okay.
I'm so mad at them because I wish they would have put those people on public housing. You know how effective those assholes would have been if we would have been like, all right, pro-life people, I like what you're doing. You're organized. You're putting judges places, but why don't you guys work on housing? Right. Guarantee you, drop those abortion numbers way down. Instant results, new strategy. You want less abortion? Let's eliminate the threat and risk of homelessness and home insecurity.
That's socialism. Oh no. Making sure
man.
people have a place to live is socialism, and we can't do that.
Or you tried to shelter me, but I didn't have a good enough credit score.
Right.
For
Although
a
I've had interesting guests on this show that have made the argument that government subsidies for housing, by paying those government subsidies to landlords, you end up artificially inflating the price of housing, which ends up hurting renters. So you actually end up having a situation that harms more renters than helps the people who are unhoused or who are economically disadvantaged, and we should need a better situation than with more guaranteed housing and less landlords or something like that. I don't know if I'm exactly articulating the point correctly, but
I'm feeling what they're putting down. I'm feeling that.
It was an interesting economic point that I couldn't argue with. I'm not yet sold. It's like I've had arguments where like I'm almost there. Like I agree with the majority of the points that are made. Like I'm not quite yet with the rent is theft crowd, but most of the arguments that they make are valid about, you know.
I believe that everyone deserves to have a home that is a forever investment for them.
Right.
Making other people pay your mortgage because you have a better credit score than them, and the monopoly American game is not necessarily anything to like be ho-hum bragging about.
Right.
You know,
I think there are people who
homeownership is the American dream, and you deserve, like, if you're paying rent, why aren't you purchasing a home? Well, it's economic disparities.
Right.
You know, it's credit, it's debt, you know, it's not that the landlord is necessarily smarter and more business savvy and more deserving than the renter. If the renter could be the owner, they would be. They literally can't.
Right. I mean, my mortgage payment right now is for a larger house is less than what somebody pays for rent for a much smaller place, although I don't know what that will be next year after my citizens goes up, but that's a whole other story. But I mean, there are situations where, you know, there are people who do choose to rent, and that's fine. If you have the means to buy and you choose to rent, that's fine. If you have there are people who are like traveling nurses who need to rent, and that's fine. You know, there's definitely a market for rent, but there shouldn't. We also have so many unoccupied dwellings that could house every unhoused person that we've definitely unsaturated the market, I should say, by so many houses that are not being put in the market, that we've artificially created a shortage, and as such, or scarcity, that it makes the prices too high for people to be able to afford it, and you know, it's ridiculous.
Airbnb in New Orleans, we're talking to you, you assholes. Can we hear? You know, the short-term rental catastrophe. I mean, people used to just stay at a bed and breakfast or stay in a hotel, but now we have people from New York and California purchasing cute shotgun houses, and they're running a business. And we have people that are lifetime Louisianians, born and raised, go back generations, can't afford a house here.
It's like the idea of Airbnb should have been like, hey, I live in New Orleans, I want to go to Disney for Mardi Gras, so I'm going to rent my house for Mardi Gras and make some money so I can pay for my Disney trip. Like, brilliant. We love that. But
I love Airbnb when you live in the house.
Right. That should be what it was, and then it became, I'm going to be an out-of-state developer, buy 12 houses and gentrify the entire neighborhood and throw all the marginalized people away. Like, that's what it became. Like Uber started off as being, hey, I'm going to go to work, but if I'm going to work, I might as well pick up a couple people on the way to work and make some money on the way back and forth to work. And then it became, well, I see an opportunity to make a whole bunch of money, so I'm going to make a whole bunch of money. And then they started cutting driver benefits, and that's when I stopped driving. I literally stopped driving a month before it became really bad for drivers in New Orleans. Like
what happened?
They cut the rates. They did things like, we used to get like if a rider paid like $10 on a ride, like, and then plus like whatever booking fee there was that covered like insurance and stuff like that, like I would get like $8. Like if whatever the rider paid, I would get like 80% of it. They changed it to like a rate card instead, so what the rider paid, what the driver paid was completely different, and then they changed how surge worked. So there were situations where like a driver might get paid like $20 but the passenger could have paid like 60 or something, and like Uber was taking so much more money. It was even worse with Lyft, and I was just like, and it got really bad. Like I drove in, like I stopped driving full time. Like I picked up a full time job. That's why I was doing it between work, between gigs. And it was actually great because I was able to tell anybody I was interviewing with. They were like, well, why haven't you worked as a software developer in the last 2 years? I was like, well, I'm making good money with Uber and Lyft, so I don't have to settle for a lowball offer. And they're like, oh, okay, well, we can't lowball you then. So I was able to get a good salary. And then it ended up happening that as soon as I got the next job, they started changing their policies. And the only time I've driven Uber since was they said, hey, you haven't driven in a while. Here's a good bonus. I'm like, I'll take that bonus. And then I stopped driving again.
Why are they gonna make it so hard for workers? It's like if you can't see the inextricable, like the battle between those who exploit and those who work and get exploited.
Right. Well, it's always a constant battle between, you know, the people that work and the people who are the employers, and it's always a constant struggle, and that's why you need unions. But everyone's always fighting unions, and it's like. I liken the need for unions like the need for the levees in New Orleans. You know, people will argue, well, we don't need unions anymore because unions fought for all these things that we have, so why do we need unions anymore? Well, the Mississippi River hasn't flooded New Orleans in the last however many years, so does that mean we can take down the levees now? No. We still need the levees because they're preventing the river from flooding the city. So if we take away the unions, the businesses are going to then continue to try and do the same BS they tried to do beforehand. So they don't understand that.
What are we going to do if Jeff Landry wins?
I don't know.
Is that really, are people really thinking that that's going to happen? Can we talk about when the levees broke, like when democracy broke? Like, do they realize it's going to be like a right-wing fascist Saudi regime here?
It's
like, do they realize?
I don't understand how. What was the campaign contribution he got? That's, now I'm blanking on it. There was some campaign contribution he got that was terrible. Now I'm blanking on it. I'm blanking on it because I've been too busy dealing with the campaign contributions that have been obtained in the District 91 race for the House race, but that's a whole different other story.
Whoa! Let's talk about it.
You want to talk about District 91 with Landry?
We're talking about the Madison O'Malley telenovela Democratic Party catfight of the century, the betrayal, the fucking tragedy and betrayal, the mystery of who is Madison O'Malley and why is she being used as an operative to take out one of our most fantastic House representatives who would have just automatically gotten the seat, and all the money that's going to support Madison ousting Mandy could be used to actually unseat Republicans. What the hell? And look, I met Madison. She seems like a very nice lady, but I'm also like, why the hell? Look, I live up in here. This is my little district right here. When I was deciding to run for office, I was like, well, let me look at a House seat because Senate's a little And I realized, well, I'd be running against Robbie Carter. Robbie Carter's a Democrat and a good one, and an old white boy who's a little bit woke. And so I'm not going to run against Robbie Carter because I'm not trying to take down the few players that we have who are doing the right thing.
Right.
And I don't have respect for political establishment. I just really wanted to fight for women's choice. And Beth Mizell was the more appropriate person for me to go against. So I want to ask Madison O'Malley, is there someone else you could have used your fucking white girl pizzazz against besides Mandy? Is there someone else that would have been a more appropriate target for you to take out of their seat? Because if you want to run for office, bitch, I support you. Go. Fucking run. But her, you want to run against her? Why?
Right. But that's the thing. Like we could. There's so many districts where Republicans are running unopposed that could have had Democratic candidates, and we've discussed this Monday. Even if the Democrats wouldn't have won in those districts, running a Democrat in those districts would have enabled those Democrats to help get out the Democratic vote in those districts, which would have helped statewide Democrats win or have a better chance of winning. So
literally makes no sense.
None whatsoever.
No sense to me. It makes no sense to me. It feels so backstab.
Yeah. Well, some people are mad that for, a few months that Mandy Landry left the party because she was, felt that she could do the same thing as an independent person as a Democratic person, I mean, they must be really mad at me because I was an independent voter for years because I was mad that the Democratic Party endorsed unrepentant convicted felon Edwin Edwards for Congress. And, well, I decided to come back into the fold because I wanted to vote in the Democratic primary in 2020. So be it. So that's why I did it, because there's only two reasons you have to be there's only three reasons you want to be a Democrat in Louisiana. If you want to vote in the primaries, if you want to serve on the parish executive or state central committee, or if you want, I guess, to be a Democrat elected official as a Democrat. Those three reasons. Otherwise, you can be an independent voter and still vote however you want, because we don't have closed primaries except for in the presidential primaries. So
I just don't understand. So what do the reports say? Tell me the reports.
Like, what do you mean? Like the...
Yeah. It's like, where'd she get her money from? I don't have time to look at this.
I don't even know. I mean, I think one of the articles that I read, like, that gave kind of like the full background and everything, says that it was like an inheritance, like that she inherited the money that she loaned herself.
Well, run against a Republican, darling.
Right. Like, I don't like
my cat keeps wanting to come in and out. I'm sorry.
That's fine. I have mine also came in and out. I was trying to. I thought one of my kids was coming in, and I was just like waving back, and turned out it was just my cat.
Caddy's podcasting right now.
Right.
Back.
Because I was like, actually, I'm gonna do something a second.
Maybe Madison doesn't know that there are Republicans controlling Louisiana that we need to be running beautiful, attractive, intelligent, charismatic, hot young white women against. Wow. I mean, if God dealt you that card, you have a responsibility to bring progressive politics to Louisiana. She's doing great. She's walking, her infographics are all cohesive. She's got her signs out there. Madison O'Malley is a very hardworking candidate, regardless of whether or not you love her or hate her for what she's done. I'm just mad that she didn't take all that pizzazz and put it against the Republicans that are dragging our state to the dark ages.
Right.
Like, she's kind of just picked the wrong fight.
Yeah, I don't understand why. Like there's I was considering running for the state central committee, but I talked to a friend of mine and found out that I don't like who the person who is currently sitting in there supported, and so I was going to challenge, but there is already somebody in my district challenging, and so I'm like, well, I don't have to do that. I don't have to be the one that challenges, so no reason to make that fight because somebody else is making that fight. I don't need to. I can let somebody else do that and support that person or do something else. Like, there's no need to fight at a good incumbent. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. And the only reason that I would think that, I don't understand why somebody would loan, like in O'Malley's case, $137,000 to her own campaign to a job that's over the next 4 years is only going to pay as 80 at the most, 70 at the most, maybe over the next 4 years, is because maybe she's expecting, if she does win, to get campaign contributions to pay that off, and maybe the campaign contributions that she is going to get might not be campaign contributions that she does want people to see before the election. I don't know. I don't know. I hope Mandy does win because, I mean, she's done good work already. But
she's feeling.
What?
I said, how is she feeling?
On Monday, she says she feels good about it. Like, she feels that the numbers are good. But You know, we'll see.
Rooting for her. I'm rooting for her. No offense, Madison. I just
Right. We'll see Saturday. We'll see Saturday, of course. But the you know, my theory on that is my theory as to why any candidate puts that much money up against to loan themselves
it's not their own money.
Would be that either it's not their own money or they are anticipating contributions after the fact and they just don't want to, and they have maybe some promises of contributions after the fact, if they do in fact win. So, am I right? Am I wrong? We'll see. We can only see if that happens.
These are really good theories, though.
You know, I unfortunately, I tend to be right more often than I'd like to be. Like, I was in 2016. I was right that if Donald Trump won, he would name 3 Supreme Court justices, and everyone called me crazy. He was like, "There's no way that Donald Trump's going to name 3 Supreme Court justices." And once he named his 3rd, I was like, I'm right too much to only have 750 YouTube subscribers. I should have
a Metairie.
What?
Metairie Supreme Court. A Metairie Supreme Court.
Yes. I even said it was going to be her. No, it's not going to be. I was like, it's going to be Amy Coney Barrett.
Unsung liberal Nostradamus of YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. But I can't get anything to hit. Even my Hamilton parody I thought was going to hit and didn't hit.
You just keep on saying in there. The 750 people who appreciate your show appreciate you.
So.
And it matters.
Well, I try. So.
And
we all appreciate you and Mandy and all the other hardworking progressives that are trying to do the right thing for our state as well.
Stir shit, get people pissed enough to vote. Sounds like it could be easy, but it's seeming to be more hard than that.
my first run for office was hard too. I mean, it was the first congressional district. I ran all up on the North Shore, and you know it was North Shore, Metairie, Kenner, some of the West Bank. Like, it was quite gerrymandered. There was a district like in uptown New Orleans where there was 4 corners of an intersection, and like 2 of the corners, like these 2 corners connected with the intersection and the other 2 corners connected across the river. That's how badly gerrymandered that district was back then. I'm sure it is still very, very badly gerrymandered, but it was crazy. I went to that corner just to I needed to take a picture. I don't know if I still have the picture, but I needed to take the picture of, this is the district, this isn't. It was crazy.
Yes. It was that complicated.
Yeah. Way overly complicated because of gerrymandering. They need to because they have to pack all of the black voters into one district so they could disenfranchise them and take away their say in Congress. Because there should be 2.
Really low.
Because there should be 2 districts that represent black people in Louisiana, and there's only 1. And they finally solved that problem in Alabama, and hopefully now they'll be forced to solve that problem in Louisiana too with the Supreme Court ruling. So
it's wild. We waste so much time fighting against what would be just the obvious right thing to do.
Yep.
It's hard not to get resentful. I'm starting to eat a sandwich on the podcast.
No, it's fine. I drink, you can eat.
It's made me a little peckish. A little peckish. Well, dang, I'm glad that Mandy's hanging in there. You know, it's just.
And I wanted to come to your thing on Monday, but I had to prep for my podcast. So because now I'm doing Mondays and Wednesdays. So.
That's great.
But we'll definitely have to hang out one time soon after the election's over with, once you are hopefully preparing for your new seat, but you know, regardless.
Look, I give it to God. You know, whatever happens. I've accepted that if we're not able to turn out the votes that we need, it's not because my position is the minority position, it's because a majority of people aren't voting. And not to make any excuses for me potentially not being successful, but at the end of the day, voter turnout is historically low in Louisiana, and this election is looking like terrifyingly low. If we're low, this election's real low.
Right.
Like, there are 60,000 people that have yet to vote, and they only have Saturday.
Right.
60,000 in my district.
And how many people are in your district?
120,000.
Wow.
But only about 70, 80,000 are registered vote. Like, I think let me get you some numbers.
Okay.
From my women's diary. Yeah, the total right now is like 35,000. Something like 37,000 total. You know, so you're looking at like 100,000 eligible voters, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're missing 60 of them.
Wow.
Crazy. That's crazy. So it ain't my fault.
Well, hopefully you got some more to turn out by being energetic and out there and getting the people excited about yourself. And are there any other issues that you want to talk about, or any other things you want to let the listeners know about before you head off? And I know you probably have to take care of the kiddo, or...
I do. I just want to tell everybody to tell everyone to vote. I don't even care if you're not voting for me. Just please, let's vote. Like, now that I'm kind of bearing witness to this political process as a candidate and realizing the insanity of so few people deciding the legislators that make the rules for everyone, I'm like, well, shit. It would feel less oppressive if I knew that the people we were getting were the majority choice.
Right.
But it's just the minority that's showing up. And so vote. Tell everyone to vote. Be annoying. Be one of those people that other people say, God, I wish Dan would stop telling people to vote all the damn time. It's annoying. It's like, well, if it gets people to vote, then it's worth it.
Be annoying. Yes. Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. And as soon as this uploads, I'll get this to you, and you can share it far and wide. And good luck on Saturday, and I'll be watching the results. And I hope you have a good rest of your day, and we'll get together soon.
Are you going to be streaming? Are you podcasting, watching the results?
I haven't made a decision yet, but maybe I will. Well, maybe I might.
Do it. You'll be the person I watch. I'll watch you.
Okay.
I'll watch the results.
Great. Sounds good. All right.
I'll see you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right. So again, that was Britt, and she is running for the state senate here in Louisiana. And again, you could support her. I know Jolie has shared the link a couple of times, I believe, as I saw that going by. So thank you, Jolie, for that. I know we did have a bunch of stuff going on in the chat. I know Gibson, you said you hope she doesn't win, but I disagree with you wholeheartedly. One of the things that was interesting that we've talked about the last time that she was on was that Beth Mizell, who is the Republican in there, supports this carbon capture project, which in order for the oil and gas industry to try and get away with some of the stuff that they're doing, there's a carbon capture project that the city that it's happening near doesn't want to have happen. And the city's not happy about it, and Britt wants to say that the city should be able to have a say in whether or not the carbon capture process takes place in the city or near their city. So in reality, I would think that that's the more conservative stance, but it seems like Beth Mizell is the one that's bought and paid for by the oil and gas industry, so she's willing to throw the city under the bus, probably because the city doesn't exist in St. Tammany Parish, because that's part of the thing. Beth Mizell lives in St. Tammany Parish, and the other two parishes or counties, for those not living here in Louisiana, she's willing to throw those two under the bus because most of her vote comes from St. Tammany Parish. So she's like, F St. Tammany, F Washington Parish. Let's just, we can put those carbon capture things there, because there's been no studies to show what those carbon capture projects will do. Now, I'm fine, with a general concept that we should be doing things to, eliminate the excess carbon that goes into it in the hopes to fight, global warming. But again, the solution can't be worse than the problem. And if you're going to harm people's drinking water, if it could potentially harm their drinking water by putting it right by where their drinking water is, then you're not doing anything environmentally sound. You're just shoving one problem into somebody else's problem. Silly Wonka, carbon capture is deployed by oil and gas. Again, yeah, so there you go. So there you go. And I'm concerned. So anyway, show reset. We have 26 viewers, 25 likes. I don't know if that 626th viewer is me. So if there's somebody there who hasn't liked the video yet, please make sure to like the video. Please make sure to share the stream, subscribe to the channel, like, comment, and share other videos as well. I saw some of y'all do that for some of the Israel videos that we did share before, which is a good thing. Has anybody been paying attention to the Steve Scalise thing and whether or not they are holding a vote tonight or not? Because that's one of the other things that there was potential to happen tonight, but they said they didn't know whether or not they were going to have a vote tonight. It doesn't seem yet that there is going to be a vote. I haven't seen anything about there being a vote yet, so we're not there yet. The PSGE7, I did not like the chief to imply that we have a constitution written in the 18th century that is not suitable for today, as if it's not been amended 27 times since it was ratified. Well, I mean, it has been ratified, but there are things that are there that were written that haven't been changed since then. But a lot of the things that have been there, some people still don't like. So, Bicycle Mike, they don't have the votes yet. So, you don't have the votes. You don't have the votes. Ha, ha, ha. You're gonna need congressional approval, but you don't have the votes. Anyway, and I've said it before. Like, I didn't think that I thought it was gonna be Jim Jordan. I really thought that they were gonna go with Jim Jordan, but I forgot. I was gonna bring up one thing before she left, and I forgot. The Jeff Landry thing that we were talking about. Jeff Landry's running for the Louisiana governor. Jeff Landry accepted campaign contributions from a lawyer who is charged in a scam of Louisiana homeowners after Hurricane Ida. Like, he was going to be processing Hurricane Ida insurance claims, and he was really scamming them. And the day he gave the campaign contributions to Jeff Landry, who currently is the Attorney General and he's running for governor, the day the campaign contributions were given is the same day that the day he got indicted was the same day he made the campaign contributions. Fishy. Fishy, fishy, fishy. So that's not somebody that we want as our governor, but it's somebody who may very well be governor of Louisiana. It's going to be terrible. But back to Scalise. I really thought it was going to be Jim Jordan who was going to be the one. But I think there's too much stuff on Jim Jordan. But then again, like, there was somebody like on the local news today who was saying that Jim Jordan's not somebody who will reach across the aisle, but Steve Scalise is. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Steve Scalise is a hyper-partisan hack too. The only thing about Steve Scalise is, like, I know him. Like, we've met, I think the other day I was talking about the fact how, like, the last time I saw him in person was New Orleans Tech Week or something, and he came to some event, and I was like, hey Steve, how you doing? And we shook hands, and he remembered me because in 2004, for a very brief moment, we were both in the election for Congress running against Bobby Jindal. Now Steve Scalise dropped out of that election, giving way for Jindal to run, and then Steve Scalise was like, okay, I'm going to drop out, because he probably thought and was correct in thinking that as soon as he dropped out, And as soon as Jindal moved on and ran for governor, that Steve Scalise would then be the one who was tapped to be the next one in that seat. So, and that seat's a very powerful seat. That seat has gotten people, has gotten some very powerful people who have done some very stupid things. Like Bob Livingston was going to be Speaker of the House until he got caught by Lawyer Flint cheating on his wife. David Vitter was going to be governor, but he slept with hookers. Bobby Jindal became governor, but fine. And now Steve Scalise, might be Speaker of the House. Who knows? You have his health issues to worry about. Steve Scalise also once said that he's David Duke without the baggage. Who knows what that means? What that really means. But, yeah, as Bicycle Mike said, David Duke without the robes. Robes, baggage, same thing. So, Cynthia from Texas, now I want Pop-Tarts and I don't even consider it food. Food. Use the term lightly, I suppose. Let's see. The Constitution was created to meet our needs, and the needs were changed. Republicans are always scamming off the poorest and the most desperate. Sickening. Very true. Is that Kimchi a different name? Witchy Kim? I do not understand why the Second Amendment folks ignore well-regulated militia. I don't understand that either. I had a great phone call into the Jeff Career radio program once when I was like, people were like, I don't understand why liberals don't understand will not be infringed. And I called up and I was like, well, too many liberals forget the word shall not be infringed, but too many conservatives forget the term a well-regulated militia. And the woman who is now Jeff Carrera's wife, but not at the time, was like, it doesn't say regulated in there. And I just started laughing. And I could even hear Jeff laughing. And he was like, he read it. And then she wouldn't even admit that she was wrong, clearly, because conservatives will never admit that they're wrong. That's just how it goes.
It is what it is.
Thank you, Donald. Anywho. Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Let's see. WMD did not belong anywhere but in the battlefield. Jefferson thought each generation would rewrite its own founding document. Well-regular militia should not be infringed. The dopes don't know English grammar. I mean, I think if I wrote the Second Amendment in an English class, I think I'd fail. Because I think it's very, very, very poorly written. Yeah, SCOTUS is absolutely corrupt as fuck. Especially with Thomas and Alito and all that fun stuff. People always say, we need a Second Amendment because we need to be able to take up arms against the government. I'm like, good luck taking your AK-47 against an A-10 Warthog with depleted uranium-tipped shells. Good luck with that. It's not going to happen. All right, so let's go ahead and... Doop-a-doop-a-doo. Haha, we are back to talking about the continued Israel-Hamas discussion. Oh, we have a caller. Hello.
Hello, sir. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Has the callers stormed the phone lines tonight because they were really particularly upset about that Israel comment there that you made about the macro and where's the conservative prong point that you put there in your video. I showed it to a couple of my buddies, and they're like, what? So they might be calling you tonight. I don't know.
I did have...
you may be going a little more...
I did have another one that looked like someone was trying to connect with Skype, but they exited out. But So far, you're the only one.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, can you go in a little more explanation? I know you did on the video, but I said, well, how do you compare it to a conservative value or a conservative geopolitical standpoint of how this is Israel's favoring conservative point of view concerning the Hamas issue?
Well, is Likud the conservative a conservative political party in the state of Israel?
Well, I guess you could say that, yeah, but I don't think they're taking that approach though when it's coming to when they're open to a two-state solution all this time, and they're making peace with Saudi Arabia, and then now the hex is put on that based upon Iran funding Hamas to go into Israel like this. I mean, I support Israel 100%.
Wait.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
When was the last time that Netanyahu brought up a two-state solution? I don't think the two-state solution has been seriously on the table for a very long time. And I can hear myself in the background, so I might want to mute YouTube.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
How's that, better?
Yeah, it's better. But yeah, like I haven't heard any serious discussion on the part of anybody on either side. No, I can still hear myself.
Well, Saudi. It's not me because I don't have nothing else. I don't have nothing on right now except I'm calling you on my house phone, landline too. So
that's weird.
Yeah, very weird. Let's go to Saudi Arabia then. They were just about ready to go strike a peace deal with Saudi Arabia, and let me ask you this question: do you think that the $6 billion has been already spent and helped fund Hamas to pull off this attack?
No, there's no evidence that any of that money's been withdrawn.
So where is the money now then?
It's in a bank, I think. Still in the bank. It was at the bank in South Korea. And I am hearing myself.
Qatar.
Is it in Qatar, or it's whatever bank it's in? It's still in.
Well, wait till next week. There's going to be reports that come out that money has already been spent, and there's evidence already that Iran is directly responsible for funding Hamas and Hezbollah from where Lebanon is striking Israel, and also the weapons that the exit strategy of the Biden administration there in Afghanistan, which we're seeing weapons turn up that were from what we left behind.
Okay, we're
do you have a comment about that?
Things now. So let's try and focus the conversation on just the argument that I made that the problem between Israel and the Palestinians is a problem over there as conservatives. Now, if we can bring in people like Iran funding, that's okay, fine. But I think I might is this? I don't know why this is doing this. I don't know. I don't know why I'm hearing an echo. Anyway.
Yeah, I'm not. But
so anyway, if we can bring in Iran helping, I mean, I'm sure Iran at some point has helped Hamas. I mean, that's without question. At some point, Iran has helped Hamas, and I'm sure the intelligent departments of the world, including the United States, including Israel, including other nations of the world, are probably looking into whether or not there was a. I'm going to just mute you a second just to see if it's me. I'll bring you back on.
Okay.
There are people, I'm sure, who are looking into whether or not it was Iran or who helped with this particular attack, or just if Iran has helped them up until this point. And we'll be looking into if Iran did help this attack, how they did help this attack or not. And I'm sure that is going to be the case. And yes, it is. The echo is coming from you. And I'll unmute you in a second. But yes, there are people who have been looking into that, and they should be looking into that. And then I think there'll be a discussion to be had as to whether or not we should refreeze those funds. And we can always talk about how fungible funds are or whatever. But I think the idea there hasn't been enough time for the $6 billion in funds to have been used or whatever for this purpose. It's just not possible. It's not even plausible for those funds to have been used for anything that was pertaining to the events of this past weekend. So I think anybody who's trying to bring that up is just trying to dirty the water. But if we want to bring up the idea of conservatism, and what if conservatism is responsible for the problems in general, and again, I was not talking about this weekend. I'm talking about in general. I mean, Likud is one of the conservative parties. There are more conservative parties. There are more religious conservative parties than Likud. There may be even more politically conservative parties than Likud, but Likud is a major conservative party in Israeli politics and has been such for many a year. And that's without question. Benjamin Netanyahu is a conservative Israeli politician, and that's what that to doubt that is, now you may question how conservative he is, but he is a conservative Israeli politician, and you might say you might not think he's as pure of a conservative as you might want him to be, and maybe he's not as pure of a conservative in the American context, but just as I would argue with liberals and leftists when I try and bring up and talk about leftist and progressive policies, and they'll say, oh, well, you know, Bernie Sanders is a leftist, and then somebody will say, oh, well, Bernie Sanders is really a moderate centrist if you compare him to Europe, and I'll be like, well, no, but you can't do that because we're talking about American politics. So if you're talking about American politics, you have to talk about the frame. You have to frame the conversation in how American politics is. You can't just go bring in European politics to try and claim that somebody isn't leftist or not. You have to talk about American politics. So if you're talking about Israeli politics, you know, and I do bring in American conservatives at some point in the debate, but when you're talking about Israeli politics, the Likud is the conservative party, and I'm going to bring you back. So, hello.
Yeah,
Wait, hold on. I think let me just
336.
Wait, hold on.
You see it?
Hey.
Okay, gotcha.
All right. You there? Hold on. All right. Do I have you now?
Much better, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
okay.
Much better, right?
Yes.
Okay. Sorry there. I'm a Blog Talk host, so I know that I know it's aggravating to have an echo, so to have a conversation with an echo. Well, okay, your point is well taken on that and that aspect. But so let me throw it back at you then. How would the liberal standpoint then? How would it differ then? What would be different then? How the outcome, just not this past or over the past few years?
Well, I would probably argue that a more leftist progressive Israeli government would not support, you know, bulldozing Palestinian houses to create settlements, for one. I would argue that a more leftist progressive one would probably be more proactive in trying to argue for a two-state solution. I would argue that, you know, a lot of, I mean, we could probably sit here and go over, you know, individual actions that Netanyahu has done over the course of his tenure that has rattled the cage of Palestinians in general, where there's been harassment of the Palestinian populace in ways that would be seen as, you know, maybe the same way in which perhaps trying to word it as best as I can. Like so many things have been going on in the recent actions where I'm not thinking of every single possible thing that Benjamin Netanyahu has done over the course of his tenure and multiple tenures as Prime Minister of Israel. But my point is that his actions as Prime Minister are done in such a way that do not seek peace. In my opinion, to me, it's he almost wants to benefit from conflict. But
well, this is a long history, and you have to date back all the way back to the beginning because that's what they do. And you're dealing with something that is biblical here. And if you go to Genesis 12:3-1, the Lord says to Abraham, "Go from your country and your kindred and your father's house to the land that I will show you, and I will make of you a great nation. I will bless you and make your name great, so that you will be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and who dishonors you I will curse. And you and all the families of the earth shall be blessed." The blessing included that land that at the time the promise was made, and it belonged to Abraham. It was promised to Abraham, this land. There was no such state or country ever called Palestine. I know there's maps that were created throughout history that say there was not. It was Canaan, and it was promised to Abraham. And we know, and it's a biblical lesson for everyone to learn, and that's the way it is. And God's not going to have it any other way, and neither are the Jews. I believe that's their land. And now I believe the proper way of going about it is they're going to have to occupy the Gaza now and the West Bank permanently and from now and forever, because there's never going to be peace. You're dealing with people with an ideology and a belief that is not a peace, does not have a peaceful mind or a resolution in their minds or frames of minds.
That's the problem, though. Is the problem you're falling into is that you are blaming the entirety of the Palestinian people for Hamas. You're blaming the entirety of the Palestinian people for the wrongdoings of a few. It would just be like me blaming the entirety of Catholicism for molesting priests, or me.
Well, let me throw this at you then.
Me blaming the.
Let me throw this one at you.
Okay.
Let me throw this one at you. Okay, you have a drug dealer in your neighborhood. Okay, all right, your entire neighborhood, it's bringing down the neighborhood, bringing crime to your neighborhood. What does the neighborhood do? You report them to the police. You have Hamas living amongst the Palestinian people, all the organizations, the nonprofit organizations, all the funding that the Palestinians have had over the years, 15 years now, 16 years, since Arafat's death. And instead of taking that money, it was stolen by it gets stolen by Hamas, and they're using it to buy weapons to shoot rockets over at Israel. And why not snitch these Hamas people out to the Israeli officials, intelligence officers, because they have the most sophisticated network of intelligence over there, and root out this evil. Instead, they welcome these Hamas people, and they're shouting death to America and death to the Jews in the streets of Palestine. Come on, you know that the Palestinians aren't these innocent, sweet little people that want peace. You know, I mean, is every single one of them evil? No.
If you sit here and have a gun behind your head thing, and someone says, well, if you don't shout death to Israel, death to the Jews, we're going to shoot you because you're going to be seen as a Jewish sympathizer, what are you going to do? Are you going to sit there and say no, and risk your family dying, or are you going to sit there and pretend to save your own life? You know, one might
in those extreme situations, yes. Of
right,
course,
right.
but is it like a 24/7?
I can't necessarily
no.
sit here and I'm not going to sit here and blame somebody for having to take an action that, in the grand scheme of things, is it hurting me when I know that the people who are ruling over them are horrible, despotic people. And I don't think your one drug dealer example is to make your example good. Let's say you were in one neighborhood, and the neighborhood next to you had a couple of drug dealers in it, and your solution would be to raise the entire neighborhood just because it had some drug dealers in it, simply because the other people in the neighborhood didn't turn into drug dealers because they were afraid if they turned into one of the drug dealers and were caught, they would get hurt by the drug dealers. Like,
is Israel doing that? They're not. They're not taking. They didn't take out war on the entire Palestinian.
Well, you're suggesting that they should take over the entireness of the Gaza
now.
Well, that
now because look what's happened. I mean,
there are people who are saying that they should raise the entire Gaza Strip and just flatten the entire thing and get rid of the entire thing. So
yeah, it's war. It's a war, Dan. Right now it's war. What has happened over there? The atrocities are unexplainable. I speak to people in the military. I know people in the military and people that are actually stationed over there now that are in the special forces that are working side by side with the Israeli military. And there's American citizens over there that have been captured and murdered now. Yes. This is a war. And unfortunately, in war, it's not we get to pick and choose our targets. In war, it's hell. And unfortunately, there's going to be cataclysmic casualties in war. And they started the war. They started this war on a 50-year anniversary of what? Of what happened 50 years ago. And they took an opportune time to take advantage to attack a party. And innocent kids that were having a good time, and they took it, and it just swelled out of control after that. I mean, and that's what happened. And I stand by Israel. I stand by the Jewish people, and they have to do what they have to do to take back their lands, and so be it. Of course, I don't want to see innocent Palestinians hurt, of course, but unfortunately, again, it's war. And
but
again,
as I said
if
in one of
people
my
are
videos,
living
I don't know
amongst
if you
me,
watched all of my videos. I don't know if you watched every second of my videos.
I watched about 2 of them. I watched two
right.
of them. I try to catch them all when I can.
All right. So points that I made in my videos is absolutely you need to go after the people who did the wrongs. There's a difference between there are absolutely people who said that you should raise the entireness of Gaza, who you should just flatten the entire thing. And to those people, I said you're no better than Hamas, because there's a difference between going after the people who did this and ending up with civilian casualties, which are tragic, but sometimes happen in war, and just flattening indiscriminately the entire thing. Two different things.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's a tough situation. It's a really.
I'm not going to sit here and say that Israel doesn't have the right to defend itself. I'm not going to sit here and say that Israel doesn't have the right to go after Hamas. I think Hamas needs to go away. I think Hamas is a terrorist organization. Hamas needs to go. The entire world would be a better place without Hamas, without Hezbollah, etc. And we'll agree on that. But we might not agree on the methods in which you do so. I don't think bombing should be indiscriminate. I don't agree necessarily with the idea of just cutting off the entirety of power to the entirety of Gaza. I have a big issue with the idea of, there's a big conversation to be had about, the fact that now there is a hospital with no power. So if there's a hospital, there's a hospital with no power, so you're going to have people who need required medical care, babies on.
Yeah, but you have Hamas hiding in the basement of the hospital. So what do?
Right.
Use them as human shields.
That is the other valid part of the argument, where they use human shields, and we know they use human shields, and so again, they make it harder for people to be sympathetic. They use human shields. I've said that in one of the videos as well, where Israel will call up and say, look, we're going to bomb this building because it's being used by Hamas. And then Hamas will be like, hey, kids, go play in that building. And then you end up with dead kids. And then Hamas goes to the media and says, hey, Israel just bombed this building with dead kids. And then some people in the media will say, well, Israel just killed these kids. And Israel will be like, well, we told them that we were going to bomb that building. And the kids we were told that there was nobody in the building.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Let me
Hamas
ask you one more thing, please. One more thing, if you don't mind. The Afghanistan problem. We exit out of Afghanistan. Now the weapons are being found in the Hamas hands. The rifles that are being used, they've been identified. A lot of the serial numbers now, the equipment, the night vision equipment. So the Biden administration obviously is responsible, and there's blood on his hands for I would say, because of his exit strategy and what he did in Afghanistan, how he exited out of Afghanistan, leaving $86 billion worth of equipment behind. What's your opinion on that?
I have not seen anything that in any sort of website that is... I just did a search on it now. I've not seen any. I will look into that, and maybe I'll talk about that Monday.
All right. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
I'll look it up. I've seen a couple of articles from websites that, to me, don't look legitimate on its face, that I don't even want to click on.
But we know he left it behind, though. We know it was left behind to the Taliban.
Well, from what I believe, that a lot of things were scrapped. So...
$86 billion worth of hardware. I would say that's a lot of scrap.
All right,
but
that's.
I don't think we'll agree on that one.
Okay, but we can have a talk about that. There's also a conversation to be had about the fact that Donald Trump left him with a situation that was untenable, because he's the one that set the date to leave in the first place. So there's that conversation to be had as well. But let's let's go ahead and leave it at
All right,
that.
well,
I thank you for your call.
I appreciate you taking the call.
No problem.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Be safe, brother.
Bye.
All right.
All right. Gibson Media, thank you for the call. So yeah, we will look into that, and maybe we'll talk about that part on Monday. But he did bring up something that I was going to bring up, and I did want to bring up anyway, which is the idea that, or I did get to a point that I wanted to bring up, is that, you know, I do question whether or not certain things in the actions of Israel are legitimate or not. Yeah, Israel has every right to go after Hamas. But does Israel have every right to use any means necessary to go after Hamas? I mean, we already know that the troops are lining up the border. There's probably going to be a ground war. There's probably going to be a ground assault. They're going to go after Hamas. They're going to go after the terrorists. They're going to try and find the hostages, and as well they should. Everybody wants, you know, the hostages rescued, and let's hope that they can find as many as possible before any more are killed. And my point is that you can't do everything, and there's certain things that if you do, you're gonna make yourself look bad on the international stage, to the point where people are gonna start not having your back anymore. So it's funny. Everyone's telling me to kick him off, and by the time I'm reading this, I've already kicked him off. or not kicked him off, but I already ended the phone call. So it's funny. Anyway, again, like, cutting off all the power to everybody, is that okay? Is that, I mean, people might say, well, that seems to be a reasonable tactic, and whose fault is it if they cut the power off? You know, is it Hamas's fault? You know, is it a reasonable tactic to cut off all the power to make everybody uncomfortable? And are they gonna will they blame Hamas because the power's cut off? I don't know. But is it the is it okay to leave kids and infirmed people without power, to not be able to get, you know, the needed medical services? If you're going to go by Jewish law, I would say no. I would say that if you're a Jewish state and you're operating under Jewish law, or if you're trying to be the best Jewish state possible, you're not allowed to. You're not. The idea of there's questions as to whether what lives you can take to save a life. So it's questionable. I don't think that cutting off the power saves more lives than it takes. So I don't think cutting off the power is the best thing to do. I don't think cutting off the power makes people uncomfortable enough to stand up against Hamas and say, hey, let the hostages go. I think it just makes the people more resolute. It makes them more likely to side with Hamas. To say, yeah, maybe the Israeli people are bad because they're now cutting off the power, and the people in the hospital are going to die because they can't have power. So there needs to be a solution, at least to help the people in the hospital, to maybe get them out of the hospital and treat them. Because there are cases where there have been Palestinians that have been treated in Israeli hospitals with and been helped. So Gibson, just don't call my people wicked. Just, that's enough. Don't call people wicked. I'm deleting that. Where is it? No, I didn't pin it. I don't want to pin it. I want to remove it. Undo. Unpin. Hold on. I deleted Doc's message. Hold on. Hold on. I deleted the damn... I deleted the wrong thing. Sorry, Doc. The thing moved up. And I deleted the wrong message. Sorry, Doc. That is my bad. So happy I don't have a wrench here. I would twist Gibson's nipples off. That could be a kink. You never know. Again, Doc, I apologize for deleting your message. I did not mean to. So, damn, scrolling too fast. Either scrolling too fast or my fat fingers. One of the two happened. Anywho, let's stop recording that one because it already recorded too much. Here's the thing, Kimchi. Like, I don't necessarily think that call was that disruptive, though. Like, he made his points. I made the counterpoints. He made his points, I made my counterpoints, and then he hung up. Now, I don't like the comments that he made in the chat, and I deleted one, and Jolie deleted others, and that's fine. But I don't necessarily think that was a disruptive call, because I was already going to be talking about the Israeli-Hamas thing, because that's what I changed my thing to. I don't know. I'm going to have conservatives on my show every once in a while. It's going to happen. I'm sorry if you don't like it. I don't think... I didn't say his points were valid. I just said they weren't disruptive this time. Like... I like, again, I don't want Gibson. I don't want you calling people wicked. And again, you're on thin ice with that sort of thing. And you might have said they started it, but again, you're already on thin ice for things you said in the chat last time. So, and the rest of other people are not on thin ice. So there's that. All I'm saying is, and if I had to make a choice, if I have to make a choice of you or them, it's them. I don't know. Here's my counterpoint, Kimchi. What does Hal do? What does Hal do on his show? All the time. And you watch Hal a lot, right? And Hal even talked about what he normally does on his show all the time. Hal will take a video, and he said today that most of the time when Hal watches a video, Hal will watch a video that he hasn't watched yet. Well, I'm counterpointing you because I'm trying to make a point. Hal will watch a video that he hasn't watched yet, and he'll respond to it. Who does he respond to? He doesn't respond to the liberals, leftists, most likely, unless it's Young Turks. and I'll respond to Young Turks as well. And sometimes he'll do like Jimmy Dores and whatever, but Jimmy Dores and an a-hole. Whatchamacallit, Russell Brand's an a-hole too. But he'll put on Alex Jones. He'll put on Donald Trump. He'll put on Trump Jr. He'll put on Dinesh D'Souza. He'll put on all of these gigantic asshats and respond to all of these videos by these gigantic asshats. All of these videos by them for hours on end. And you watch it. You don't complain that he plays their horrible stuff. He airs their lies constantly, Kimchi. He constantly airs Donald Trump stuff. He constantly airs every single lie that Donald Trump says, and then he counters it. And every time Gibson says something that I know is that I absolutely know is not true, I counter it. He brought up the whole Benjamin Netanyahu trying to bring up a two-stage solution. I said, when's the last time that happened? I don't think he's brought up a two-stage solution in forever. He brought up the money being spent. I said that money's not been spent. Like, the only difference is that it's live versus not live. I mean, but he eventually lets them complete their stuff because he'll pause it and then he'll continue. And I will interrupt. I've muted Gibson Media before. I've stopped him, and when I've felt that I have a need to make my point. I've stopped him before. I've muted him before when I've felt the need that I needed to make a point, and especially when he said something so completely outrageous, I'm like, whoa. And when he started going off topic, started going about like other things that were unrelated to the topic of Israel and Hamas, I was like, stop, no. Let's narrow this back down to Israel and Hamas and keep it on target. I've never said that House had a live MAGA person on the show. I've never said that. What I'm saying is that he plays their stuff. You still have to hear their stuff if you're watching his show. I can accept your criticism. I just don't. I'm more than willing to accept criticism, and I'm just trying to figure out what the difference is. Why it is such a difference. Why is it somehow better? Why is it somehow better for when Hal does it on a video, but when I try and do it live, it's somehow worse? I'm trying to show y'all how to deal with these people. I'm trying to teach y'all how I deal with these people. So how when we're dealing with these people in politics, we have to be able to stand up to these people. We have to be able to know how to stand up to them. We have to be able to know how to make these arguments. We have to be able to know how to counteract their arguments and how to deal with them on the fly. That's what I think I bring to the show. That's what I think I bring is unique to the show. That's why I think is I bring unique to the airwaves or to the internet or whatever. That's one of the things that I think that I do better than a lot of other people. But I didn't let him. I don't think I've ever let him lie. I might give him enough rope to hang himself. I let him, like, the one time he was on and he was talking about, I was letting him talk and talk and talk one time, and I let him talk for about a good 3, 4, 5 minutes, because at the end of the 5 minutes I was waiting to make my point, and then I made my point, and he couldn't counteract my point, because I gave him just enough rope to where he couldn't hang. I think it was the time when I was like, he was all making a big stink point about politicizing government. I think it was when he was making a big stink about politicizing government, and I'm just sitting here just like, okay, keep going. I wanted him to keep going, because then at the end of the point that he made, I was like, in 2016, did you ever use the words "lock her up" for Hillary Clinton? Isn't that weaponizing government? And he had no retort for that, because I exposed the hypocrisy. I exposed what the problem is there. Okay, he told Blatant Lies was geo-challenge $6 billion. I flat out said that the $6 billion wasn't spent. Repeatedly, several times. That's an incorrect statement. 1277 if whatever. I flat out... Can someone back me up there? I flat out said that the $6 billion wasn't spent. Multiple times. I'll take valid criticism. That's bullshit. That's flat out bullshit. And the equipment left in Afghanistan? I'm going to email him, and I'm going to have him email me and have him prove that point. The point, the onus on the person making a point is on him. And I'm going to email him and I say, look, you give me the point. Because I said at the end of that point, didn't I say at the end, I have no reason to believe that's true. When he made that point, I think you could probably go rewind the live stream. If I didn't say those exact words, I said something similar. I said, I have no reason to believe that's true. Yes, I'm cussing. Because it should be Gibson Media making me upset, and some of y'all are making me upset. Because some of y'all don't understand why I'm using him. And I'm sure he uses me too. But y'all don't understand why I'm using him. It's to prove points. I don't have words of redneck wisdom because I really think the redneck words are wise. I don't have the new clip of the just the clip bit thing because I think the just the clip thing is a good thing that was said. Again, I'll say it again. Part of my show is to inform. I think I make points about the issues of the day that are different than anybody else. Elizabeth last show heaped a bunch of praise on my commentary on Israel, and one of the things I was worried about with my commentary on Israel was that sometimes, my commentary gets taken by a lot of people the wrong way, simply because of the fact that I refuse to play the extreme game. I refuse to just blame Israel and just blame Hamas. I'll blame people who deserve blame, regardless of who it is. And so I was very appreciative of, like, Elizabeth, for example, when she was repeatedly heaping praise on what I said last Monday, which is awesome. And I appreciated that. And that's one of the things I think I do, is bring unique points that other people don't bring up. But the other thing I do, I think really well, is debate conservatives. Or just debate in general. I think I debate people well. Why would I not have debates on my show if I didn't debate people well? I don't get it. And not only do I think I debate people well, I think I show other people how to debate well. And maybe there should be some sort of mechanism, some chat mechanism that y'all make, that when I have somebody calling into the show that y'all don't like, maybe make some sort of chat group or something, or Discord or something, or whatever. And if Gibson Media calls up, maybe just silently leave the chat in here and just say, have somebody message y'all and say he's now not on the show anymore. I don't know. I don't know what else to say. Benny Loco, all the conservatives do is lie. Every single clip that Hal Sparks shows of conservatives is lies. And he's constantly knocking them down. The only difference is I'm doing it live while he's doing it on video. But that's what I understand. He has a 5 days a week, or sometimes twice a day show, sometimes, or maybe it's not 5 days a week. Whenever he has a show, sometimes twice a day, sometimes once a day, he does a show. And it's a great show. I love Hal's show. I'm not criticizing Hal at all. I think he does a great job doing the show. He does a great job of responding to the conservative lies. And he played, but I just don't understand what the difference is by responding to a video of a lie and responding to a lie live. It doesn't make, it's not a, I disagree with you, Benny. I disagree with you 150%. That there's that much of a difference between responding to a lie live and responding to a lie on video. And I don't know. I can't handle it. I can't understand it. Just whatever. Caller, I apologize. Call back Monday. I'm going to be ending the show right now. I'm done with tonight's show. This is the end of this week's episode of Liberal Dan Radio, Talk from the Left, That's Right. I'll be back Monday, same time, 8 p.m. Central, here on YouTube, Liberal Dan Radio. I will be live on Twitch, twitch.tv/nerdydan.com if you want to join me tomorrow night to do gaming stuff or whatever. You can follow me on twitch.tv/liberaldanradio as well, because once I get monetized here, I will be doing streaming both. But first,